The minute they understand where they're coming from and where they're losing, they want to know how they can win. And that is when we can have a true conversation about where they need to step back, where they need to invest more.
Hello, listeners and viewers. Welcome to another episode of Commerce Untold. Today we have Carol Shih. Carol actually holds a variety of businesses, right? Two of the most interesting ones is Qode Space, which is a boutique Shopify agency. And Carol actually leading a team with a very specialized expertise in Shopify and managing large-scale projects. The other side of the business is Doraemi, which is Carol Shih. It's kind of an international cross-border agency, right? So, Carol, you are both an international e-commerce specialist, but you also have deep roots in the nitty-gritty aspects of Shopify. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like you and I can chat forever with those two topics that we have, but thank you for having me. I'm very excited to chat with you today.
Yeah. So going deep on Shopify, but also having this international focus and international expertise and working with international companies, where it's come from actually.
Oh, what a good question. I think I'm currently located in the United States, but I myself is a third culture kid. I was born in Taiwan, raised in Australia, and I moved to the United States. So with the multicultural background, I think I always lean towards international business, understanding cross-border. My background used to work for fashion e-commerce, and then I switched into Alibaba. So I touch a lot of brands. I touch a lot of international global brands. And so my business and my interests always kind of gravitate towards how do we connect the two cultures and how can we win for both cases. So that's the reason why companies, my family always jokes and said, do you have enough work or do you want more?
Yeah, we always get advice to be very, very focused, right? Define our ICP, right? And the persona and all that. But you took a different route. I guess it's probably it was a smart move for you.
Yeah. And then also they all connect. I'm sure you know. At the end of the day, you're working with human beings. And what you're trying to solve here is you're helping them solve the problem. And I think that's the biggest opportunity for us as whether you're agency owner or a service provider, understand what people really want and what people needs. And essentially that's the combination for all the businesses.
Yes. So, what are the biggest mistakes founders make when expanding internationally?
I think when a company and a brand is looking to expand globally, the first thing they need to do is understand their own weakness and strength. It's the same thing, right? Before you go and date somebody, you have kids as well. You and I talked about family. Before you go date somebody, you need to know who you are first, right? And I think that's the same way when I have a lot of international businesses that go, hey, Carol, I want to come to the United States. I want to sell 10,000 units first year. And they go, well, yeah, let's back up a little bit. What is your company structure like? Like, what do you think you need? Do you understand the market? Positioning for your product, right? Do you think your brand fits? So I think a lot of them is self-awareness of where your capabilities at as a company and also what support you need. So I think one of the biggest mistake a lot of brand comes in is I dominated my country. I can definitely dominate the other country. That's just not true because you
Perfectly true. Yeah.
exactly. But I face a lot of brands that are doing phenomenal, even multi-billion in Asia, but they simply cannot come into the US successfully and they do not understand why. And I think it goes back to the first problem is do you know what your weakness is? And if you know your weakness, that's when you can get support. But if you don't understand your weakness, you don't even want to admit that's a weakness, we're going to be circling around all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's much more difficult to know your weaknesses than to know your strengths, right? It's very easy to know what you're good at, right? But
Product is good. Your product could be phenomenal,
yeah,
but everything else has to add together, right? You get it.
and of course there is a lot of logistics aspects, supply chain issues, different cultures, right? Different competitive landscape, messaging. Uh, exercises, and obviously like a lot of cultural and localization differences, right? So how do you approach like cultural localization, translation beyond just specific, let's say, language, right?
Absolutely. There's also cultural differences. Even when you translate direct to the English, it doesn't make sense on friend, culturally, socially, right? And I think one of the biggest things that people forget on a realistic level is that when you are facing a brand, people think the decision maker is the CEO. It's one person. And that's not fair because that CEO was successful because probably he's a product guy, right? Let's say you're selling coffee. If you're owner of a coffee shop or a coffee product, you're very good at coffee. You're very good at beans. You're very good at where the production is coming from. You're very good at that. But then you're asking this person to also know e-commerce, to also know social advertising, to also understand, logistics, like you were saying. That's just unreasonable to ask. So a lot of times I encourage the founder to be like, what do you like to do in your day-to-day job? And a lot of times it's like, can I just be in the warehouse and just smell coffee? Because that's what I really love. Then delegate all your work to the people that are good at, like you and I, and we'll do the job for you.
Yes, yes. So what are the type of, let's say, services or hand holding, type of activities that you do, with those customers?
I think it's so funny that you asked that. A lot of times my coworkers and my previous partners always say I'm kind of like an office therapist. Because majority of the conversation that I talked to business owners did not end up being about business. It ended up being about their emotional attachment to the business. So we're talking about when you do come to the United States, what are you willing to let go? What are some of the processes you're willing to let somebody else who's better at dealing with the problem to let them deal with it? So a lot of the conversations ends up with where do you want to go? And how do you want to get there? And of course, talking about budget and money and what's realistic when it comes to investment. So those are fun conversations to have. And I think that really opens up trust when it comes to doing business with another.
Yeah, that's a very strong point, actually. I always recommend, those brands and companies don't fall in love in your products, right? And fall in love probably in customer pain, understanding sentiment, right? And work with data, try to qualify and understand,
Ah,
know what's working and what's not.
what's the human side of all this besides the data, right? Because you can do all of it. Let's be very honest. Everything that you're trying to do, and all the listeners here on your podcast, what they're trying to do is not new. Nothing is so brand new. Maybe the AI part is a little bit more unfamiliar, but even utilizing AI is still fairly straightforward for the world that we are in today. So you're not reinventing the wheel, which means you have to come down to the human side of things instead of being robotic and thinking just do a lot, then you'll get the result that you want. So yeah, those are important conversations to have ahead of time.
Yes, and a lot of this is triggered, these days in the US, definitely by the founder-led authority level, right? The founder-led content, the authenticity of the founders telling the story. So how do you build this trust and this authority, for a longer term instead of this, kind of a short-term high?
Ooh, how do we build trust? Again, I think that's funny you said about all the founder led. A lot of times I do encourage founder led because it's more authentic. I want to talk to the founder about their story, what their background, why did you build this? What's the original story? And no one will ever say, I just want to make a lot of money. It's a lot of the truth, right? But it's understanding what the brand owner wants, and what the CEO is looking for. But at the end of the day, there's also an aspect of maybe this founder is not meant to be the founder led face. And that's a tough conversation to have. And I think a lot of times when you have a tough conversation with an owner and you show that you care about their business, and that's another thing, right? I'm not going to pour my heart out and tell you the truth about how I feel about your brand unless I truly believe in your product. And I think you and I have a good relationship. And that's why you and I are on this podcast. So I think like that building that trust is asking a lot of questions. Like, are you willing to listen? And and you feel it out. Like, is that person has a lot of ego? A person doesn't have awareness of their own weaknesses or want to aware, then maybe this is not a conversation to build trust on. So it's very selective, Not everybody could be our friends.
Sure, sure. And what do you think? I mean, your years of experience with Alibaba, right, and obviously founding Code Space later, right, and Doraemi.
Yeah.
How the Alibaba experience, what did you learn there that helped you, during your next phases of your career?
So I will say this. The Chinese culture and their work ethics and how they utilize their time and resources is completely different than the Western culture. Chinese work faster and they're always thinking because the way that their society and the way that their community is being set up, it's very, very competitive. If you don't want the job, 10,000 people will take your job. So you kind of have the minute I work with Chinese, and I do so the same way, I always feel like I'm behind. I'm always like, oh my gosh, overnight when I was sleeping, they already came up with two proposals. I'm still here going like, I'm just digesting the first one. But you know what's funny is that when I work with European clients, I'm always waiting. I'm always like, they're on vacation again. So it's pros and cons, and there's no. I don't want to say like Chinese is doing the right way, Europeans are not. It's not necessary. So I think there's a good balance towards of things. But working years in Alibaba, I do want to say the pro side of working around with so much elite that is so passionate and eager to do what they do. You yourself get motivated to do a lot more and you're always thinking outside the box like how can we get there, how can we get there. They're very, very solution driven. So I think those are the pro sides of Chinese company and how Ali works and why they're a dominating industry and why they expand so quickly. Not only because their demanding is high, but they also expect people to think for them, the employees to think for the bosses, and that's why they're hired. And obviously, the con side is if you do too extreme, you have higher turnover rates, lower employee retention. So those are the pros and cons for years when I work with Chinese brands.
Yes, yes. And obviously, as we talked about, don't fall in love with your products. It's also don't fall in love, with your website. And I know a lot of them are getting a fancy website with a lot of, graphics and multimedia and video. This is all great. But we know that the name of the game eventually is conversion rates, right? And specifically the optimization of that. So, Carol, can you walk us through your audit process, right, of websites and what do you do to improve those conversion parameters?
Absolutely. So when it comes to a website, and I'm talking only more on North America and their shopping behavior, because in Asia and in certain different parts of Middle East, they do not shop online the way that Western cultures shop. They do more marketplaces like Amazon or the Tmall or the Jingdong, right? They use a huge marketplace and shove in all the products, and if it has good review, it does sell well. Or you have celebrity enhancements. That's their shopping behavior. North America, especially United States, Canada, their shopping behavior is completely different. So at Code Space, we value quality and performance because quality and performance ends up tied with conversions. So as you say, owners want conversion. How do we sell more? Well, you need to sell more if your store is functional. If your store has a great customer journey, if your store is thoughtful, like when you go into a Sephora, a beauty store, they have experts going in the store psychologically tell you when they step in, they need to smell the perfume. They need to see the product. That's the biggest one. The color, everything coordination is to a point where they need you to buy. Same thing as your website. Your e-com storefront is supposed to meant for people to shop, easy to convert. So when we are doing our audit, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for whether or not your website is performing at its best. Are you optimizing your customer journey, making sure people are adding into your subscriptions if that's what you want them to sell? Are you requesting people to try more of your products if they're only buying one type of product and you have one hero product? So strategy on strategy, and those are the conversations we continue want to have with brand owners to say, what is your goal and how do we get you there? And here is a performance audit for you to understand your health check for your website, whether or not it's healthy enough to even accept traffic and allow people to convert freely.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of an ongoing process, right? Do some tweaking and check and just working with heat maps and data. And I know Sidekick made huge progress lately, right? How do you see the progress of Sidekick, in the day-to-day operations of those?
You're talking about sitemap or you're talking about data?
Talking about Shopify, Sidekick, like AI in general, like because you can ask to do so many things today, right? Which wasn't.
That is so funny. Literally, the last month, I have been getting phone calls and emails about how do we incorporate AI into our e-commerce and Shopify. So funny that you say that. I've been talking to a handful of AI startup and companies about how they can infiltrate your company and see what are some ways that they can utilize some of the processes and convert that into AI, whether or not it's using multi agents to help function and think for you. But to be very honest with you, I think at least this year, because things are moving very fast. Next year, I don't know, but I think the next 6 months for now, um, there hasn't been any solution where I myself can fully trust AI to run everything from 0 to 100. I still personally think that more of a Claude approach, you need a human being, a strategist to understand how to pull the levers. So it's a very delicate balance here. Shopify, the biggest topic with AI right now is how can we get our Shopify stores into AI ads? A lot of people are asking AI about where do I buy things for my kid who's having a cough? Where do I get things for when if I have eczema? So a lot of brands are asking questions, where can we be searchable? And I think that's the new hot fad here is everyone's talking about how can I be AI searchable? And that's what Shopify is also trying to figure out. How can they incorporate AI to the best that we know right now and not disrupt the current processes with people?
Yes, no, I mean, it's very, very interesting. I mean, obviously there is a reduction in the amount of, um, let's say, redirects from Google to the website, right? This is well known. And in the AI search, it's like there are no clicks, right? It's like kind of a clickless type of experience,
Mhm.
right? But as I understand, and read lately, I mean, the foundation is anyhow is still SEO, right? I mean, because those AI platforms are also going backwards and search on Google, on Bing, on variety of platforms. And
Mhm.
if you're good at SEO still, yeah, it's like an important foundation. Obviously, LLM texts are also an important part of this aspect. But I guess let's see, right? Let's see how things will evolve. And we know that Shopify, announced OpenAI checkout, but then OpenAI terminated the because I mean, having a checkout built into OpenAI or into the platform ChatGPT itself, it's not easy, right? It's a big uptake. I mean, it's one way to redirect, but it's another thing obviously to check out and take a share of it. So they obviously terminated that service right now. So yeah, I mean, so for those international brands that you see coming into the country, what are do you see any typical starting point? Like there is any sales channels that is more active for different niches, or it just try to start from one and then add more channels in terms of the sales? Is it more online, more offline? Is it just trying to do both, like maybe Amazon and Shopify, or maybe TikTok Shop? How do you see the go to market these days in terms of the entering the US market?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I think majority of the brands, especially Asian brands, we're talking about Korean brands, Japanese brands, Chinese brands coming through. A lot of them have the impression that Amazon is the quickest and fastest route to sell their product, which is not wrong, right? It is true. However, my question back at them is, what is your goal of coming to the United States? Is your goal to just sell volume? And if you're here to just sell volume, great, go for it. Spend all your money on Amazon ads. You don't even need to have a D2C website. You should have an e-com website just to showcase that you're not a scam. Because that's another thing, right? Having a website right now is a validation of whether or not you're trustworthy. If your website is spelling error, you're not really converting right, it's kind of buggy, people might think you're a scam website, so they want to invest in you. But if you're selling on Amazon, or better yet, another huge channel that's very popular, TikTok. TikTok shop is sky high, especially for a lot of beauty products. They all think if I can get into TikTok, I can make it. If I can get into Amazon and sell it, I can sell volumes. Now, my question back at the brand is that what you want? Because if you're on Amazon, that means you're competing with 25, 100 other brands that's just like you. How do you know people are not copying you, even if you're the real deal? The second problem here is you don't have a brand loyalty. People don't care about your brand. People don't care about who it is. We're just going to buy it. And then somebody else does similar. We're going to buy somebody else if it's cheaper. So there's no longevity to your brand. You're going to get kicked out in 5 years unless you come up with a new product and you keep going at it. Right. So it goes back to strategy. And I want to say 9 out of the 10 products that I've seen that are coming in from Asia, majority of them has to have a talk of branding. It has to have a sit down conversation with how would you like to present your brand and what is your long term goal? And it's funny, we get stuck on phase one for a long time because it goes back to the question you asked me in the first place. Do you know your own weakness?
Yeah. Yeah, and sometime let's jump for another channel before you exhausted, the channels that you're.
You're wasting money. You're wasting so much money. You're like, oh, I'm going to do all paid ads. I'm going to build a website on my own. Your website has spelling errors. It obviously look like you're foreign, right? Your images are not clear. You're not optimizing your site. Its site is super slow. And then you're dumping a tons of money into traffic. So people are coming to your website. They're like, I don't want to buy this. I can't check out. There's a bug. So you're wasting all this money. So before you put all your eggs in the basket, I always ask, what is your overarching goal? Right now you're trying to rush. What are you rushing for? Like, oh, it's Q2. It's going to be Black Friday. I'm like, you're not going to make it to Black Friday. Because by the time you're Q3, you understand it. You're not paying for the right AdWords, your SEO and your GEO, which is the AI engine that people are talking about. You're not even there yet. You're not going to be able to compete in the US market if you're not coming in understanding where your weakness is. And which is really funny because I always say, you're Chinese, you read The Art of War, the origin of the book of Art of War, right? You should know, you understand your weakness and you understand your enemy's weakness. That's literally chapter 1. So tough conversations for a little Asian girl to have with a brand owner.
And I know you do a lot of projects in beauty, fashion, lifestyle. I mean, any specific reason why you zeroed in on these issues, or well, something specific around them?
I think like no, yes and no. I think a lot of these opportunity came to me because of my background. I stepped into fashion the first thing after college. That is where I got my internship. I learned I was working at Louis Vuitton, so I was under LVMH. So I understand the luxury fashion for quite some time, Dior and all these big brands. And then later on when I worked at Alibaba, I also then touched a lot of and big enterprise fashion brands like Seven for All Mankind, Rag and Bone, Juicy Couture. So the more experiences I have, the more exposure I got. I then touched like MDNA, Madonna skincare, which I also learned with the mentors that I have about how beauty is growing tremendously and how quickly natural beauty is doing, and then Cape beauty comes into. So I just kind of have the opportunity to learn about these industries. Therefore, I keep falling in it. And I enjoy it very much. It's an ever changing industry. And being a woman is also fairly great. I get a lot of free stuff. So that's fun.
Nice, yeah. Yeah, I mean, K beauty is amazing, right? I know the natural ingredients. By today, I know things have changed, right? There's a lot of like salmon DNA, and I mean, things are just spiking in terms of different ingredients. Like it's all over the place, and it's also the beauty of the beauty sector, right? So big, so huge. Obviously, TikTok Shop largest sector. I also saw that Amazon are selling, I think, I don't remember the exact number, but billions, right, of beauty products. So
Oh, yeah.
right,
Beauty products has shifted so big. It used to be Sephora, and I believe as of 2 years ago, TikTok Beauty Shop has surpassed Sephora's sell through, which is a huge deal. That tells you, and also another fun fact that you and I were talking about before is we're millennials, but now the shopping behavior that are going to be changing the industry is looking at Gen Z and Gen Alpha and how they shop. We shop very differently. Our parents do not shop online. They're still calling the TV. They're still walking into store. We are half half. Our kids are not going to be shopping as much in store because they have access. And God forbid, we don't even know what's going to happen when they're have money in their pocket to shop. They're going to use VRs, they're going to use cell phone, they're going to use watches. Who knows, right? So the shopping behavior is drastically changing in the next couple of years. I believe the Gen Alpha, they are 16 or 15 this year, which means in another 4 years or so, they will be out to society. They are going to be the one leading on shopping behavior. So that for those who are listening and thinking about how to change your shopping behavior, you should start looking into how the kids are shopping.
Yeah. And it's just a natural way of life, right? I mean, it's like with the same. And I've been watching Mad Men, this TV series from the beginning. And I'm at like 90/60. And and that advertising agency, they just brought in like few kids, right? I don't know which generation to call them, right? Probably Gen X today or something, even more than that. And yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, it's you have objections, you don't understand what they want, right? But it's definitely, Gen Z definitely. I mean, it's such a powerhouse in terms of buying power these days, right? So no one can ignore it. It's like yeah, something that is definitely changing. I mean, like TikTok, we call it the TikTokification effect, right? So, and then TikTok actually, educated the Americans to buy it through entertainment, right? Which was like different sectors, right? This is like entertainment, TV, whatever, YouTube. Now shopping is Amazon. You need intent for shopping, right? But no,
Mhm.
it works very well on this hyper impulse purchase, right, in TikTok. And yeah. So, Carol, I wanted to ask you about like leadership, team building in our age, right? With
Mhm.
AI, I mean, and agents, and how do you analyze and how do you see, for example, your agency, right, and other business, right, and your recommendation to other leaders? What are your thoughts in terms of growth and team building in our era?
Yeah, it's a constant challenge. I think being a business owner, you worry about three things all the time, right? You worry about sales, you worry about clients, and you worry about employees. Those are the three things that's going to keep us up at night, right? The clients are good, sales are good, your employees are acting up. Talk to your employees and make sure you're a good leader. But then, you have to also comfort the clients in case something goes wrong. I think one of the core values that is reflective of who I am as a leader is in Code Space and team as well as Doraemi. I always talk about the core values of quality. We always bring the best performance and quality as we know, keep upgrading ourselves, right? We know our weakness. We're going to keep growing it, lead with performance and quality. The other is community. I think this part is difficult for a lot of people to grasp is that because I am a woman owned and a minority owned business, I am very intentional in who I work with. I'm very intentional in who I hire. I specifically give opportunities to those that are more eager to learn versus that they have more things on the paper. Like I really don't look into their resumes, looking for where they go to school. I look for people who are looking for opportunities to grow within the company. So those are two big core values that we have, quality, community, but also the biggest one is transparency. I deal with the same way I deal with my clients. I'm very open about how we charge you, especially as development company. People don't really know what you do. They're just like, oh, you can't like copy and paste this code over to that side, right? And so there's a lot of conversation that has to be like, no, this is going to take 2 hours and here's why, right? Um, and I think the transparency part also bleeds into how I lead the team, because as a mother of two, my partner is also a mother. We have a lot of open conversations about how people feel. For example, prior to this, we have team members that lives in Venezuela. So if you understand what's going on politically in Venezuela, it's a very frightening place for young adults and those who are driving their career to live in a place where they don't feel very safe. right? So I think it's again, you and I had that same topic of going back to human to build trust. I lead the same way with my team is asking questions like, is everyone's headspace okay today? Because we know today there is a huge world issue that has happened and it happened the night before. I'm not going to be here and talk to you about tickets that you need to get done today. I'm going to pull you aside and be like, do you need to go and take care of your family? Do you need some time off? Do you need to talk about how you feel and what your career path is going to look like under these stress and anxiety around you? What do I need to do as a leader to make you feel safe about working here? And I think that question is not frequently asked enough. Um, and I think when you're genuine with your employees, with your team, with the people around you, even clients, and just be honest, right? Um, I think I don't think there's anything wrong and it will go astray if you continue to lead with your heart. And it has worked for me very many times. And I care very much about the team and they care very much about my business. And that's how we keep going.
Yes, interesting. And you mentioned, being a mom of two kids.
Yeah.
What, how it's actually changed the way you work, the way you deal, with your day-to-day priorities.
Oh, my whole team knows if I have to leave. I'll be like, guys, I can't join the call. My kid's sick. And it's to a point where because I'm so transparent with what's going on with my life, we all work from home, right? Um, my team start to adopt to that too. And it's a very open conversation of, hey, this morning I got to take my mother to hospital. And the team naturally leans in and be like, hey, how can I help you today? Carol, you're going to be gone for 2 hours. What do you need to do to make sure the client is answered? And the team leans in. And it's leading by that example. I start to see them. Also, I hire a full team of women, majority of them. We're purposeful in that way. And I think the girls and even the developer men's in our world, in our team are really sympathetic and intuitive. And they're also very transparent because we have a safe place for people to be themselves and be vulnerable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. That's very, very important. So, Carol, who is your ideal customers, and what kind of companies you're happy to work with?
Oh my goodness. I have an answer and I'm afraid it's not the most beautiful thing you'll hear. My ideal client, check this out, Ian. I think my ideal client are the ones that that have screwed up before.
Mm,
So I got two companies. One company is a web development agency. It's a boutique agency for Shopify. It's called Qode Space. So that part, the ideal client here is very similar to what I'm looking at Doraemi, which is an international cross-border business. Both of the clients, um, ideally for me, where I don't have to over-explain what services I'm offering. Again, development work is very complicated. You're coding, if you're not into coding, if you not understand technology, is very difficult, which is majority of my issue when it comes to sales. Because my clients are not going to be in tech. They're going to be, like I said, selling coffee, selling skincare, selling clothes, right? So my job is to explain to them what I do and justify the pricing. Now, my ideal client is the one that already went through a shitty development company. The one that already fucked up, the one that came to the US already and spent all the money on Amazon, spent all the money on the wrong place, and they in Chinese we call it they hit the wall, right? They kick the wall. Those are the people coming to me and say, I've tried this, I've tried that. I really don't know what to do anymore. Those are my ideal client because those are going back to the first point. They understand their weakness. The minute they understand where they're coming from and where they're losing, they want to know how they can win. And that is when we can have a true conversation about where they need to step back, where they need to invest more. So my ideal client are the ones who are willing to have that conversation.
nice, nice, nice definition. Love it. So, how people can find you, Carol?
You can email me, or I'm sure your podcast is great listeners. You can find me at carol@codespace.com with a Q. Or I'm sure you have links ready, and I'm also searchable on LinkedIn as well. I'm more than happy to connect with a lot of business owners. I think our conversation goes really far, especially with the AI topic coming in right now. I'm always happy to learn more and get to know new people.
Right. Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm really impressed by all the things that you are doing as well. I'd love to learn more about you as well on the side. But this podcast has been amazing. I've been listening to some of the episodes and learning a lot.
Thank you so much, Carol. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.